The world's a dangerous place. Get the industry's original and most trusted laser sighting system from Crimson Trace. A laser and light systems will enhance your effectiveness and help keep you and your family out of harm's way.
Today on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, we're talking cool products, training, concealed carry, and the latest news with guest host Paul Markel. Call Paul now at 866-825-5486. Now, here's guest host Paul Markel.
Thanks, Johnny. I truly appreciate that introduction, and I truly appreciate the fact that Tom has given me this opportunity to speak to you all this week. I kind of feel like a young Jay Leno sitting in the big chair for the first time, or the second time, I guess it is. I was going to use a Joan Rivers reference, but I don't know how many people in the audience would still get that. Of course, all you young in the tooth kids probably don't know who Johnny Carson is, but go ahead and Google it. I am Paul Markel. I am going to be your host for the next 3 hours. Thank you for joining me today. I truly appreciate it. And we're coming to you from our studios, which is the Glass Case of Emotion. Yes, I'm sitting in the Glass Case of Emotion studios on the sunny Gulf Coast. And today's show is going to be kind of a collaboration effort. I've got Tom's people. I have my co-host and producer and studio engineer sitting on the outside, Jared. He's here with me. So we're going to try and fill the big man's shoes while he's off and doing other things. Now, for those of you that are brand new to my voice, you're like, who is this Paul Markel guy and why should I listen to him? I got you. You're probably asking yourself that. Well, let me give you a real brief, quick background about Paul Markel. I became a United States Marine in 1987. I've been a police officer. I've been a professional bodyguard. I've been a small arms and tactics instructor for going on 3 decades now. And I host a little show called Student of the Gun, radio and television. And if you want to check us out when you're not listening to Tom, you just go over to studentofthegun.com or studentofthegunradio.com, and you can listen pretty much anywhere that you're streaming or podcasting or listening to, iTunes and all that jazz. You young kids, you know. And if you're an older guy, ask your 13-year-old grandson how you can iTunes. I kid. Now, folks, this week we were treated to yet another round of reasonable gun control talk. We get this, it seems like, on a regular basis now. And you're being told, I'm being told, everyone in America is being told by a certain party and a certain group of individuals that if you and I would only be more reasonable, we need to be more reasonable because, you know, we just can't allow everyone to have guns. Okay. All right, I'm with you. I don't think psychopaths should have guns, and I don't think murderous felons should have guns, and I don't think terrorists should have guns. But the question is, how do you keep guns out of the hands of psychopaths and professional criminals, terrorists, and so forth? You say, well, the way you keep guns, Paul, out of bad people's hands is you enact more gun control laws. We just need some more reasonable laws. Like we need more universal background checks, and we need waiting periods. We just need to be a little bit more reasonable. Because, Paul, don't you love children? I mean, you want children to be safe, right? So you should be willing to surrender a little bit of your liberty for safety. Now, let's say that that we have a magic wand, and that we wave the magic wand over the nation, and whoof, firearms are gone. All firearms are gone from the nation, and with one wave of the magic wand. So if you listen to the left, if you listen to the other side, they'll say, well, hey, great, fantastic. That's all we need to do is get rid of guns, because if we get rid of guns, then there will be no more gun violence. But when you use the word gun violence, what's the key word in there? Is it gun or is it violence? Actually, the key word in that little short phrase is violence. Now, some people would have you believe that violence is a product of, or it results in the ownership of an object. And I don't believe that. I think most of you who are listening to me probably don't either. But I bet you that you have people in your life, whether they are relatives, your favorite Aunt Susie, or the people that you work with, people you encounter, the folks at your kids' schools, and they just don't understand you gun people. And why aren't you willing to be more flexible? And why aren't you willing to accept just a few more reasonable restrictions? Because if you would do that, then bad people wouldn't be able to hurt good people because they wouldn't have the tools. Is that really true? Did violence, murder, mayhem, robbery, assault, did those things all begin with the invention of the firearm? Or has that been going on for a long, long time before then? Now, we have a story. I've got one here from CBSNews.com, and the title is Israeli troops deploy after wave of stabbing attacks. Now you're like, hang on a second. Are you telling me that there are bad people in the world that are attacking and murdering Israeli soldiers and citizens and police officers, but they're not using guns to do that? Well, that seems strange, because I thought that the left was trying to convince us that if we could get rid of guns, then bad people wouldn't be able to attack good people. But as we've seen in Israel, they have their own form of gun control. And in Israel, in most parts of the world, the reason that firearms aren't so prevalent is because they're relatively expensive to the common man, and also the parts and components and ammunition is also relatively expensive. I was talking to a friend of mine, or a friend many years ago, but he was from Israel, and he was explaining to me how expensive hollow point ammunition is over there. I said, it's not illegal, but it's really, really, really expensive. So most people don't use it. They just use standard ball ammunition. I was like, wow, that's kind of strange, because you and I, we just walk into a store and we buy it. So we have a story from Israel, and if you've been paying attention to the news here lately, what you've noticed is that there have been, tens, dozens of random stabbing attacks. And there's even been some really heinous, just sick videos that have come out where Palestinians, Hamas, basically bad people in the Middle East, are actually putting out videos training their cohorts on how to randomly attack and stab to death Israeli policemen, soldiers, and citizens at bus stops, at synagogues, on the street, anywhere. But there are no guns involved. You say, well, okay, Paul, but, there are many cities in America that have strict knife restrictions. Like in New York City, you can only carry a knife that has, a certain blade length and so forth. Or in England, you can't have a folding knife that has a locking mechanism. Did you guys know that? Did you know that they're so weak in merry old England that they can't even allow their citizens to carry like a Buck Model 110 because the blade locks open? And that's super dangerous. So, all right, let's say we get really super reasonable and we decide, well, we're not only going to have gun control, we're going to have knife control as well. So if we have knife control, if we can control all the knives, well, maybe then, we can keep people safe because we've controlled the guns and we've controlled the knives. And so now bad people won't be able to hurt good people with, instruments or objects. Well, yeah, that would seem true, but except for the news out of Canada this last week. FoxNews.com, suspect dead, 10 hurt in hammer attack in a Canadian office. Police say a man walked into an Aboriginal government office in British Columbia and attacked the people there, leaving 10 injured, some critically. Police say the suspect was restrained, and when they arrived, he died sometime later. He attacked people with a hammer. I tell you what, that seems to me like bad people. Well, you say, all right, that's one incident, Paul. Come on, get off it. It's just one single incident. That doesn't necessarily, denote a pattern of behavior. Well, except for the fact that the very same week, within one day of that hammer attack, what we have is another story from the Montreal Gazette. We have a story from the Montreal Gazette. 1 dead, 2 injured in random hammer attacks in Laval. What is going on in America? what's going on in Canada, what's going on in the world. Don't these people know that you're only allowed to hurt people if you have a gun? And if we can, like, look at Canada. Can you carry a gun for self-defense in Canada? Can you get a concealed weapons permit in Canada? All you Canadians up there, you Canucks, let me know. Can you? And they're like, not really. We can own guns, but we have to store them separately, and we have to have ammunition stored separately, and we have to have special licenses and permits, and the RCMP can come to your house and inspect your gun collection whenever they want. So we have pretty good gun control in Canada. We got good gun control, but bad people are still hurting good people. What does that tell us, folks? Well, why don't we go ahead and we'll ponder that, and while we're pondering that, we'll go ahead and bring up our floating break, our first floating break. But stick with us. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Gunny here to talk about how Glock's commitment to safety, durability, and reliability gives one a sense of confidence. Whether you're a Tier 1 operator or you're an average Joe, Glock supports those who go into harm's way by giving them the means of reliable defense. Our troops and veterans know better than anyone. You're only as good as your tools allow. Confidence is more than a state of mind. Confidence is what you carry. And I carry Glock.
Who will you trust with your guns and valuables? Liberty safes are the best built and most secure safes on the planet. They sell more gun safes than any other brand. It's about trust earned through performance. If your Liberty safe is damaged by fire or attempted break-in, they'll send a new safe right to your home. Protection from thieves and fire. Trust the #1 maker of quality gun safes. LibertySafe.com.
When it's all on the line, you can count on Trijicon Optics. Earning its reputation in combat and on hunts in all corners of the world, Trijicon comes through. The new AccuPower rifle scopes feature battery-powered illuminated reticles, variable power, adjustable brightness, plus they're waterproof. The years of waiting, the dollars spent, your hunt of a lifetime comes down to a single moment. Get Trijicon quality. Trijicon.com. Trijicon.com.
You're at a gun store and your phone tells you about hot deals. Want to know about special offers? No problem when you have Gun Dealio, the free app for your smartphone. Gun Dealio delivers the latest deals on guns, ammo, and extras direct to your phone. Don't overpay for your shooting gear. Get Gun Dealio. It's free at the App Store and Google Play. Trigger the deals with Gun Dealio. GunDealio.com.
The .45 Auto, also known as the 1911, is the standard other defensive pistols are measured against. No matter what pistol you carry, techniques developed around the 1911 are vital. You know you need training, and you know your concealed carry class definitely was not training. Now GUNTALK presents an exciting DVD, Fighting with the 1911 with Tiger McKee. Tiger's unique training style will have you drawing, moving, shooting, and running your gun better, no matter what style pistol you prefer. At ShopGuntalk.com, you can order our DVDs of Tiger's instruction. ShopGuntalk.com also has a 2-DVD set, including Concealed Carry 1. Get both for the information you know you need. This really is life and death. ShopGuntalk.com has DVDs, books, and other essential gear. ShopGuntalk.com. That's ShopGuntalk.com.
Alien Gear Holsters, the most comfortable and concealable holsters on the planet, offers big savings with our new 2-holster combo. Buy 2 complete holsters for as little as $49.88. Choose any available holster styles or colors for the guns of your choice. Alien Gear's quality products are made in the USA and include a 30-day trial, forever warranty, and free shell trades for life. Visit aliengearholsters.com today.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so you've got those reasonable friends in your life. You have the reasonable friends and relatives, the ones who'll tell you that they're like, Paul, Jim, Bob, Fred, whoever you happen to be, why is it that you just won't be reasonable? Why won't you accept more restrictions, or just a few more restrictions. Because if we could eliminate guns, if we could make guns harder to come by, well, then bad people wouldn't get them, and they wouldn't be able to do these terrible things. And it sounds logical. It sounds reasonable. Well, actually, it's not reasonable. It's not logical. It's emotional. Because these folks, they're not really driven by emotion or fact or, logic or reason. They're driven by emotion. They've been raised in a culture, in a world, and most of them have probably been raised in schools that put a lot more weight on feelings and emotions than they do on facts and logic. And you say to them, but Susie, but Fred, but Frank, look at Israel. We have bad people attacking good people without guns, with sharp objects. There were the stories that are coming out of Israel, and it's not just like super cool bench-made knives, We're talking about things like ice picks, screwdrivers. One suspect attacked an Israeli citizen with a vegetable peeler. How are you going to stop bad people from getting a hold of weapons? Consider a maximum security prison. As a law enforcement officer, I knew a lot of corrections officers, knew a lot of guys that worked in prisons. I knew one guy who worked in a supermax prison, if you will. And he told me, he said, Paul, every time we do a shakedown, every single time we do a shakedown, and that's when they do an unannounced inspection of prisoner cells. He said, every single time we come up with weapons. Something. We find something. So here you have a maximum security prison. And if you were to ask someone, what is the most weapon-free environment in the world? What area can you come up with there that is the most weapon-free? Don't you think a maximum security prison would be pretty high on the list? If we can't keep felons in prisons from making weapons out of everyday objects, how in the world can we expect the average person or the bad person or the bad people that are out there in our world to not get their hands on some type of an object that they could use to hurt people? Knives, hammers. Now, this next story I'm going to relate to you, it hurts my heart because it comes from my former home state of Ohio, and this just happened. And the reporting source on this is IJReview.com. She was murdered and hung from a fence. What neighbors thought she was heartbreaking. And essentially, a woman was chased down in Chillicothe, Ohio, by a murderous suspect. She got caught in a fence. He picked up a rock and beat her to death with a rock. They said it was like a rock the size of a grapefruit or what have you. And this just happened this last week in Ohio. But folks, how in the world can someone look at you and say, Paul, if we would just get rid of these guns, if we could just make them harder to get, we could eliminate gun violence in the world? Really? I mean, aside from the fact that, people steal guns, bad people do, bad people steal guns. We can't keep bad people from getting their hands on heroin and crack cocaine and methamphetamines and so forth, but we think we're going to get professional bad people. We think we're going to stop them from getting guns. It doesn't matter what we put into effect, how many universal background checks we have, how many restrictions we have, whether we do waiting periods or magazine capacity limits or what have you. Bad people are always going to get a hold of guns, weapons, objects to do bad things. So I guess the question that you need to ask yourself and then ask your reasonable friends is, do you believe that the object in and of itself causes the evil behavior? That access to an object, well, they wouldn't have done that if they couldn't have got their hands on a gun. Really? Just these few stories, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, ladies and gentlemen. You know that. That is just the tip of the iceberg. So we have bad people in Canada where they have serious gun control. We have people in Israel where they have their own form of gun control. Although it's obviously a lot less than many countries, because Israel, they understand that they're surrounded by people that are seeking their destruction each and every day. And in Ohio, where you can get a gun, you can carry a gun, but this woman wasn't murdered with a gun. She wasn't murdered with a knife or a hammer. She was murdered with the oldest weapon in the history books. First murder in history, Genesis. Cain kills Abel with what? With a high-capacity assault rifle? No, with a rock. So is the answer really depriving the good people of the ability to possess the tools and arms to protect themselves? Or is the answer to just pass more laws, more restrictions? Well, that's the easy way to do it. That's the soft-brained way to do it. That's the emotional reaction. And I want you to consider that. I want you to think about that because, folks, let's face it, every day, when I was a kid, I'm pushing 50. I'm not 50 years old yet. I'm in my late 40s, I'll tell you that much. But when I was growing up and when I was paying attention, and think about this yourself, you wouldn't really get a hardcore gun control push, but every once in a while, 6 months, year, every 18 months, what have you. But it seems like in our modern world, every other week, we're treated to this hardcore gun control push. And you got to ask yourself, do the people who are pushing for more laws, more regulations, more restrictions, do they really genuinely believe that depriving you and I of the ability to purchase and lawfully own an object such as a firearm for personal defense, that is going to stop, that's going to stop violence in the world? Do they really believe that? Do they really believe that violence in the world exists because of the existence of an object? Or are they naive? Are they that naive or that emotionally driven? Or you might want to ask yourself, do they just not care? They don't care about facts, reason, logic. All they care about is emotion. And are they really afraid? And so they want you to be afraid as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us all the way up to the bottom of the first hour. Now, when we come back from the bottom of the hour break, I'm going to go ahead and look at my call screener notes, and I think we're going to start taking some phone calls from you, the Tom Gresham Gun Talk audience, and if any of you students of the gun are out there, give us a call.
Now on more than 200 great radio stations, you're listening to Tom Gresham's Gun Talk with guest host Paul Markel.
And thank you to all the Gun Talk people who took the time this week to put together that special promo. You guys are professionals. I tell you what, you're doing a good job. Pat yourself on the back, unless you're driving. Then don't pat yourself on the back. Hey, I told you we were going to take calls when we got back from the break, and that is exactly what we're going to do. Looks like on line 2 we've got Jay from Rudy, Arkansas, and he wants to talk about gun control and border control. Jay, are you there?
Sure am. Okay, it's just an observation. The people who are pushing gun control are also the same people who want open borders. Well, okay, over the span of our lifetimes, we have not ever noticed them being able to turn off the tap of dope coming out of Mexico. So, okay, I'm a cartel member. Hey, there's something else that's illegal in the United States. You know, I've always wanted to own a HK-21. So there you go. There's another type of product to smuggle into the U.S. that there's a ginormous market for, probably a bigger market for than drugs. And I mean, does this not make sense?
Yeah, and thank you for your call, Jay. I really appreciate it. The fact is if we don't secure the borders, you have to ask the people that want you to be disarmed. They want you and I to be more reasonable. They don't, because bad people are going to do bad things with those objects that you do, that you have legally. But they never want to see. They never want to fix the border. They never want to stop the flow of drugs. And even the ones that say they do, they have essentially failed. They've failed to enforce the laws that are on the books. And I guess it's a question that you and I need to ask our representatives and supposed leaders at the state capitals and the national capital. I would say, hold on a second there, Sparky. Before we propose and pass more laws, why don't you tell me what we're doing to enforce the laws that are currently on the books. And I would ask them, I say, all right, the immigration laws and the border laws, what are we doing to enforce those? Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. Exactly. So we can't enforce the laws that are on the books now, but we need more laws. And it's interesting that you brought up the border because we've got a guest coming up. I'm going to tease you guys a little bit. At the top of the second hour, we have a guest coming on with us who is very, very familiar with guns flowing back and forth across the border and how your United States federal government and the Department of Justice, and yes, that was a deliberate sarcastic cough. I didn't miss the cough button. Yes, your Department of Justice, how they just let the guns flow like a river into Mexico. But folks, I want you guys to think about that for a second. Do we need more laws, or do we need to just enforce the ones that are currently on the books? And when your friends and your neighbors and your Aunt Susie, when you're at the family gatherings, are like, yeah, I know you're a gun guy. I know you're a gun person. And I've got a question for you. Why is it that you won't accept more reasonable restrictions? Why is it? And you say, Aunt Tilly, it's just, don't you care about those children that died in that school? Okay, yeah, I do care about those children that died in that school. And I think it's terrible that they were put there completely disarmed and set up to be, easy targets for bad people. And after they give you the harumph, say, Aunt Tilly, is it in all 50 states of the United States of America, that representative republic that we live in, is it not illegal to murder people? Well, of course it is. Oh, okay, all right. And now how about to just point a gun at someone and threaten to kill them? Is that illegal in America, all 50 states? Well, of course it is. Kidnapping, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, are all those things illegal? Well, of course they are. Okay. So what you're telling me is that someone who's willing to commit murder, which is, I think you and I will all agree that is the worst, most heinous crime that you can commit as a human being, is the unlawful taking of another human being's life, right? That's at the very top. When you look at the law books in your various states, and the states that do have the death penalty, there are only a couple of reasons that you can get the death penalty in America today. We no longer give the death penalty for stealing horses, although we might want to bring that back. But death penalty states, the only places you can get the death penalty is for murder, or in Ohio, when I was a police officer in Ohio, there was two ways you could get the death penalty. One for murder, capital murder, and the other was a sexual assault on a child under age 12, which is just horrible and makes me want to throw up. But the fact is that there are evil humans in the world that do that. And those were two reasons why you could get the death penalty, no other reason. So, Aunt Tilly, what you're telling me is that a person, a monster, an evil person that is willing to walk into a school, a church, a shopping mall, whatever, and commit murder, that person will be dissuaded by a plastic sign that says no guns allowed. Or if you make it really super hard for me to get a gun, then somehow that will make it really super hard for bad people to get a gun or any other object, like a hammer or a knife or what have you. We've got a call that just came in on line one, Ray, in Bluffton, South Carolina. Let's go ahead and take your call, Ray, and what do you got to say? Go ahead, Ray.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so I was just curious, why don't more gun owners know more things about the laws in their state and their and then federally as well? I speak to a lot of people on the topic, and it's like, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but it's like you guys need to learn more things about the laws. A lot of stuff you hear being on the gun shop or anywhere else, you hear like one thing that's real big where I'm at is the 3-step rule. Have you heard of that one?
Well, I think you're talking about the 3 steps that you have to the 3 check boxes before you're allowed to use deadly force. The 3 check boxes: the opportunity, ability, and intent.
Oh no, that's not the one. This one, not this one.
Oh.
It's basically.
You talk about physical steps.
Yeah, so like, you have to have your weapon in condition 3 if you're carrying it in your car without a permit, and you have to do insert the magazine, pull the slide back, and take the safety off before you can use it. And there's a long list of just misconceptions that people, they hear from a guy that works in a gun shop, a friend that's a cop, a friend that's a security guard, and it's just like, just go and Google your laws.
Well, yeah. It is a responsibility of every citizen of the United States, a lawful citizen, not people who are here illegally, but it is your responsibility to know what the specific laws in your state, what they are. The NRA's ILA site, it's nra.ila or ila.org, I believe it is. Don't quote me on that. But the Institute for Legislative Action, you just go in there and type in your state name, and it tells you all of the gun laws in your state. And you are responsible for knowing those. Ignorance is not an excuse. So, and Ray, are you a student of the gun?
I do subscribe to your YouTube channel.
Okay, well, there you are. You're a student of the gun. So it seems to me like you've been listening louder, and that was an excellent question. I think we're going to go ahead and take a moment, do our floating break. But when we come back, we'll see if we can squeeze in maybe one more, or we'll give you a little teaser for the top of the next hour. How's that sound? Ladies and gentlemen, I am Paul Markel, sitting in the big chair for Tom Gresham, filling the big shoes, and thank you to everybody who's actually off the microphones and helping me out in the studios far and near.
The Ruger American Rifle is a 100% American-made firearm that offers outstanding performance at a great price. Available in standard size and compact models, it features power bedding integral bedding blocks, a Ruger Marksman adjustable trigger, a flush-fit 4-round rotary magazine, and a 3-lug bolt with 70-degree throw. Compact models feature a shorter length of pull and a shorter barrel for a reduction in overall length of more than 5 inches. The Ruger American Rifle, another rugged and reliable firearm from Ruger.
Be sure to watch NRA Freedom Friday from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. with Freedom Fighters, American Air Gunner, ATSN Stop the Threat, GUNTALK TV, Championship Season, Guns and Gear TV. Watch NRA's Freedom Friday only on the Pursuit Channel, where we deliver the outdoors.
The world can be a dangerous place. Gear up with the industry's original and most trusted laser sighting system from Crimson Trace. Equipping your firearm with laser and light systems will enhance your effectiveness and help keep you and your family out of harm's way. Call 800-442-2406 or visit crimsontrace.com and receive a free copy of our new laser training video, The Laser's Edge. Crimson Trace.
In the fight for gun rights, we need ammunition, intellectual ammunition, and no one does it better than researcher John Lott, author of More Guns, Less Crime. John created the Crime Prevention Research Center to counter the junk studies being done to push gun control. But he doesn't have the big bucks of billionaires like Michael Bloomberg. All he has is us. So I'm asking for your help. Go to crimeresearch.org and donate what you can. This research makes all the difference. People ask what they could do to help preserve the Second Amendment. Honestly, this is one of the best moves you can make. If you can give a lot, that's great, but even the cost of a box of ammo helps. We need John Lott's intellectual ammunition. Go to crimeresearch.org. It's time to step up. crimeresearch.org.
In the war on terror, fighting crime in the streets, in competition and homes around the world, one name in firearms stands out: Sig Sauer. Our pistols and rifles are renowned for their unfailing performance. This same commitment to excellence can be found in our line of SigTac accessories and the training offered by the Sig Sauer Academy. For unmatched quality, reliability, and innovation when it counts, choose Sig Sauer. Visit sigsauer.com today.
A great trigger can make you a better shooter. For over 60 years, Timney triggers have been trusted by hunters and shooters everywhere. Timney triggers are proudly made in the USA and come with a lifetime warranty. Installation is easy. Give yourself the Timney Trigger advantage. To see more and order online, go to timneytriggers.com. That's TIMNEY triggers.com.
Sometimes I'm not sure which one's bumper music and which one is commercial music because it's all so funky fresh. Got funky fresh bumper music and funky fresh commercial music. Hey, for those of you who listened to the show last week, Tom did a little bit of Tom and I did a kind of a teaser. He brought me on for about 15 minutes or so, the middle of the show, and we talked about the new book, Faith in the Patriot. It's a book that I wrote this year. And I wanted to take a moment to say thank you because I don't always get to talk to the Gun Talk audience. But after we did the interview last week, Jared is the guy who's behind the scenes making all the stuff happen. Jared is actually my, in addition to the co-host and producer of my show, he also is the website designer and what are you, Jared, the web manager? The web something or other?
I like to call myself the digital mastermind.
Oh, okay. He's the digital mastermind. So the digital mastermind said to me this week, he said, hey, I checked the Amazon, the ratings on Amazon for Faith in the Patriot, and we got a big spike this week. And, you know, what happened? And I said, well, I was on Tom's show last Sunday. And so what I want to do right now at this very moment in time is to thank you. If you were one of the Gun Talk members or Gun Talk audience members that went on Amazon and picked up the book, thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. I hope that you enjoy the book. I hope that when you get it, that it'll give you some inspiration and that I'm not trying. People are like, Faith in the Patriot. Who do you think you are? Some kind of a pastor or preacher? No, I'm not that. And it's not actually a book where I'm trying to convert you. It's actually a book to give people who are of the Christian faith a little bit of encouragement. Because quite frankly, right now in the United States, Christians are being told to shut up and sit down and be quiet. And you can be a Christian as long as we don't hear about it. So if you did, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And right now, according to my intrepid call screener, who's in another state but doing a fantastic job, the lines are open. If you want to jump in right now, you can do that before the bottom of the hour. Now, coming up at the top of the hour, we have a good friend of mine. His name is Mike Deddy. Mike Deddy is a gun scribe. I've known Mike for many, many years. One of the many hats that I've worn throughout my career is I started writing professionally about 20-plus years ago. In the early 90s, I started writing. And Mike wrote for some of the same publications as I did. We met each other probably a dozen or more years ago. Mike is a solid guy. He was a United States Marine for a while back in the olden days. He's been a writer. He's been a gun dealer. And Mike found himself quite accidentally right in the very middle of a mess that you know as either Operation Wide Receiver or Operation Fast and Furious. And so when we bring him on, we're very privileged that he's going to take some time and be with us today. So if you are have any questions about that, what went down with Fast and Furious, Wide Receiver, and what have you, because quite frankly, folks, let's face it, we're constantly being bombarded with propaganda, and you and I have a hard time discerning what is the spin and what is the reality. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and take our next hard break. When we come back, we're going to take a phone call, and then we'll go to the top. Thank you once again for joining me, Paul Markel, on Gun Talk Radio. All right, kids. If you are a student of the gun and you say, I don't usually get to ask Paul a question, I want you to go ahead and get on the lines, and I will try my very, very best to answer any questions that you can come up with. All right, kids, stick with us. We will be right back. All right, as we said, we're going to get right to the phones, try and squeeze in a couple of calls before the top of the hour. Let's go to line 3. Looks like Ryan in Enola, Pennsylvania. Hey, Ryan.
Hi, Paul. How's it going?
Oh, just Jim Dandy.
Good. Hey, I had a question for you. How did you get Jared to the point where he is now, when most children don't always take up the interest of their father?
Torture and coercion. Torture and coercion. No, actually, Jared, he can choose his own path. He has chosen his own path. I've always tried to give him encouragement. And that's something that I guess that all parents deal with. They're like, man, I hope my kid follows in my footsteps. And you can't force them to do that. You can just expose them to as much as you possibly can. And one thing, when it comes to hunting, shooting, gun-related things, and introducing your kids, I'm going to tell you this, and I see it all the time. Dads take their kids out and they kind of semi-force them to, or to shoot the guns, or you need to learn this and what have you. If the kids aren't enjoying it, if it's not fun, they're not going to want to do it. All kids will want to please you. Young kids want to please their parents, so they'll gut it out and they'll put up with it. But the best thing your child can ever say to you, and this is something that my daughter said to me when she was in first grade, and I went and picked her up from school, and she said, "Daddy, when can we go to the range again?" I said, "You're so beautiful. I love you." And then she said, "Daddy, do we have more ammo for this?" And I said, "Yes, honey, we definitely have more ammo for that." No, I would just say, look, when it comes to kids, expose them to it. Make the experience fun. And you know what? It doesn't always have to be you that introduces them to the favorite sport. I've been working with the 4-H shooting sports program since the year 2000. And sometimes if you want your kids to love shooting, if you want them to love the shooting sports and that, sometimes you just take them there and let other adults, and then they'll come back and they'll say, "Dad, I learned this today, I learned that today, and I want to do this more." And you smile and you say, "That's right, that's exactly what we want to do." I think we have a moment to take line 2, Chad in Medford, Oregon. Let's go and take Chad real quick before the top of the hour.
Yeah, I was calling in regards to something that came out in the news this past week in California. The Lieutenant Governor, Gavin Newsom, who used to be the mayor of San Francisco, he was thrown out because of marriage infidelities and things like that. Somehow he's now Lieutenant Governor of California and looking apparently to replace Jerry Brown. He has put forward a ballot initiative. They're trying to get signatures to get background checks on ammo and also to make an outright ban on normal capacity magazines, anything over 10 rounds. I think what it's going to come down to, we all know how California is and the way they can vote things through that don't always make sense. It's going to come down to, if they pass this, California gun owners are going to have to start taking the mentality of those in New York who have not complied with the registrations, Washington and Oregon State, where people are still selling guns.
All right, Chad.
Yes.
Chad, what I'm going to say to you is this: number one, when people tell me that there are more conservatives than liberals in California, I say you're wrong, and the answer is Jerry Brown. I don't know how the People's Republic of California, how people who expect to be gun owners or citizens can still live there. They think that they can still vote their way back to freedom. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I feel bad for them, but at the same time, they've been so reasonable for so long. If California is anything else, California should be a wake-up call and example to the rest of the nation. When you seek to be reasonable, when you seek to get along with the other side, what you end up with is California. And it's basically a slow bleed to death. All right, folks, stick with us. We will be back with even more. Thank you.